How's it going, horror fans? Welcome to the channel. In this video I want to talk about whether or not Terrifier 2 was a better movie than Terrifier, the original Terrifier. Did Terrifier 2, for as crazy and insane that it is, was it able to top the original? Let's see if we can make a decision on that. It's going to be tough because right off the top of my head, it was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. I thought Terrifier 2 was going to be way better than Terrifier, even though Terrifier was a great movie. I thought Terrifier 2 was just going to go above and beyond and just completely overtake Terrifier. But to me, it was a closer battle than I thought it was going to be, which I was a little bit disappointed about because I was expecting Terrifier 2 to just be this huge epic movie, and it was. I mean, it really was. It was a great movie. It was brutal. It was just absolutely insane. But was it better than Terrifier? First of all, one of the main things about Terrifier that really has stuck with me is the scenes, like the actual places where they're at. They're in this building most of the time. I guess it's like maybe a school. It's kind of hard to tell, but they're in this building, and you know, eventually as time goes on, they get into the garage and they get just way deep down into the nitty-gritty parts of this building, and it is a place you do not want to be, especially with Art the Clown. And so I was hoping that Terrifier 2 was going to top that, because in the trailer they had some parts that really seemed a little bit better and a little bit scarier. For example, the bathroom scene where they go in, you could tell in the trailer that they go into the bathroom and there's just blood everywhere, and now watching the movie you know that there's shit everywhere. But it is just a crazy, that was a crazy scene right there, a crazy setting. That is perfect. But the unfortunate part is that the rest of it, like especially in the final act, it takes place at this amusement park where they have like a haunted house section, I guess. And unfortunately it was like not that scary, because it was intentionally scary because it's a haunted house. And so yeah, you don't want to see Art the Clown there, but I just felt like he fits right in there, and that's not scary. I think the horror characters are scarier when they, you know, show up in a place that you wouldn't expect them to be. Those are just regular buildings. You wouldn't expect him to be there. People on the street walking by, they don't know there's something going on like that down there. And so Terrifier 2 disappointed me a little bit with the setting, and I will say that, you know, most of the other kills take place in their houses or, you know, in the costume shop, stuff like that. Art the Clown in Terrifier 1 was so scary because they had him in this crazy old, you know, just run down old building, and they had him like deep inside that building, and that was scary to me. Now, in a lot of ways, Terrifier 2 was just more of the same, and from a Terrifier perspective, there is nothing wrong with that. I am so happy that we got more of what we had in the first movie. It was so much fun. Art the Clown is so much fun. He's so crazy. He's funny. He is just insane. And so I can't complain about his performance in the second movie. It was basically about the same. And so, you know, and the good thing is there was more of him. And so I probably will give Terrifier 2 a little bit of credit in that department. Now, the other characters, a lot of people complain that Terrifier 2, the characters weren't that good, and there was no story, and maybe the acting wasn't that good. I don't see that. I don't see, you know, I don't have any problems with the girls or anyone else in Terrifier 1. I mean, maybe the janitor was a little bit, you know, not the best actor, but that it played in perfectly to that 80s style, B-movie style film. And so I had no problem with that. There didn't need to be a story. I mean, I think there was enough of a story there, so I really don't see people's complaint about that. Because in my opinion, yes, Terrifier 2 did have a bigger story. I mean, it had more runtime to do that, 2 hours and 20 minutes, but it didn't, like, the story in that movie wasn't significant enough for me to where it made that much of an improvement on the original. So it shows to me that the Terrifier movies are not trying to be a story-driven franchise, and that's totally fine with me, because we all just care about Art the Clown going around doing what he loves. And how can you hate a man like that? And to be honest, I might like the characters from the original Terrifier better, because they both have the main girl and her annoying girlfriend, you know, and the annoying girlfriend in Terrifier 2 was a lot more annoying, just not as good of a character, not as well acted as the annoying girl from Terrifier. The friend in Terrifier 2 was so annoying, you just could not wait for her to die. In Terrifier 1, she was a little bit annoying, but it wasn't that bad. You know, like, she was actually somewhat interesting and somewhat funny. The acting was a lot better for that character. And so I have to give the credit to Terrifier 1 for that. And, you know, one of the main parts of this analysis has to include what happens to that girl in the original Terrifier, because she gets sawed in half. Now, that's important because, first of all, nothing even close to that happened to the friend in Terrifier 2, in my opinion. Now, everybody was wondering, how can Terrifier 2 top that scene from the original Terrifier where he saws her in half? I kept hearing people say, I didn't think they'd be able to do it, but they did. They topped it. And I'm like, wow, they must have done something really crazy then. And I don't know, after watching Terrifier 2, I guess they would be referring to the scene where, you know, he just fucks that girl up and then he comes back and pours bleach and salt on her. That was fucked up. That was crazy. But did it top that sawing scene? I don't think so. That scene in the original was epic because it was just a classic horror movie epic kill. You have her tied up upside down, she's naked, and it was just a classic horror kill. And you were, honestly, when you're watching that movie, you're not expecting that. It was insane. That was one of the most insane kills of any horror movie ever. They did not top it in Terrifier 2, and I'm sad about that, but that original kill is just so good. Now, did it top Terrifier 1 in the violence and gore? I'm not sure. I mean, there's definitely more kills, more violence, more blood and guts, but those kills in the original are just as good. They're just as bloody, they're just as gory, they're just as sadistic. One thing I did like about Terrifier 2 was how he kept using the bodies to do different things. Like, one of my favorites was using the head of the girl to give candy to the trick-or-treaters. That was amazing. That was so cool. But in the original Terrifier, he turns that one guy from the pizza shop, he turns his head into a jack-o'-lantern. So, and that was unprecedented. That was before Halloween 2018, so that was a really cool effect. I love both of those effects equally. Now, I did like how they had the girl and her brother. That was a fun relationship to see. It was interesting to see what the brother was going to do, but unfortunately I feel like they didn't really utilize him that much. And so I just left a little bit disappointed that we thought we were going to get a lot more story, and it didn't really happen, which I'm fine with. But, you know, considering that a lot of people had a lot of complaints about the original Terrifier about that, I'm not sure where the improvements were made in that department. Although I did enjoy all the characters. The characters are just about the same all the way from All Hallows Eve up until this movie, and I have no complaints about it. I think it's just enough. Now, you did have some really fun scenes with art. Some of the scenes I enjoyed a lot was where he went to the laundromat and was washing his clothes, and then he, you know, he just does some crazy things that you're not expecting. I loved that scene. That was fun. It's always fun to see Art doing what he does and having a great time doing it. And then another scene was where he was with her in the costume shop, and he was just trying on all these sunglasses and trying these toys. That was fun to watch. It was funny. It was iconic, especially the shot of him with the sunglasses. That was perfect. Now, one thing that I don't really like about both movies, and I don't really know why, but the ending sequences, I guess. I don't really like the whole part about, in the first one, about the girl on TV with her face all gone and everything. It just never really fit for me. I don't know, it feels too weird in a way. I really can't explain it. It's just not something you want to see. It's not something you really care about that much, I guess. I'm not sure why, but maybe it's the makeup, but it just doesn't hit you where I think it wants to hit you. And so in Terrifier 2, when they go back to the hospital and that girl's going crazy, I'm glad it's in there, I guess, because I want more of the movie. I want as much of the movie as we can, but I feel like it's just unnecessary, and it's not scary. It's scary in a way that other horror movies do, and I don't like those type of horror movies, I guess. I just don't like having the crazy mental patient with a disfigurement and all that. It doesn't do anything for me, so I don't know. Some people might like that, but it's just a complaint for me. Now, an interesting scene in Terrifier 2 that I need to talk about is the dream sequence, where she starts dreaming, and then they go to this, like, I don't know, a TV show or something, and they're singing the song, and Art the Clown is there, and there's all these other weird people doing stuff, and he gives him candy, and then he gives her like a heart and everything. That was a crazy dream sequence. I mean, right off the bat, I was thinking, usually I hate dream sequences. They totally ruin the vibe of movies to me. For example, well, probably the biggest example, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. The best part of that entire movie is the opening, and you know, where Michael Myers is chasing her, and it is some of the best stuff in all of the Halloween franchise. And then she wakes up and it was all a dream. I can't stand that. It makes me so mad that Rob Zombie did that. Anyway, I just don't like dream sequences because they just ruin a lot of stuff, and Friday the 13th is guilty of that too a lot of times, so I don't like it. I'm always skeptical. So when I saw that they were doing that in Terrifier 2, I was like, oh no, what's gonna happen here? Are they really gonna do a whole dream sequence? But somehow, I'm not sure how, but they made it work. It was so cool to see Art just get that gun and just start shooting at everyone. That was crazy. That was such a crazy dream sequence. I think the reason why I didn't mind it is because it didn't really have a huge effect on the story, and yeah, there were a lot of kills, but I don't know. Maybe it's because it was such a long movie that there was plenty of other kills, that there was enough kills to make up for it, I guess. So I didn't mind it. I thought it was a pretty cool dream sequence, and I'm surprised about that because, like I said, I just hate dream sequences usually. I just think that they, you know, they make you question the rest of the movie, and I just don't think that's necessary. But I'll give them credit for doing this right. Now, one thing I like about Terrifier 2 is the music. The music is amazing. Now, it's basically the same music as Terrifier, the original, and that is great. I mean, it has that old school techno vibe, and honestly, the soundtrack is just phenomenal. They know what they're doing. They have that classic 80s vibe, and they have a lot of cues, musical cues from Halloween in there. Honestly, I don't think it could get any better. I mean, Art doesn't really have a signature sound yet, but my goodness, that soundtrack, it's up there with Halloween for me. And I would say, as of right now, it might be better than Friday the 13th. That's how much I like it. And I just love how, since it was a long movie, they were able to make the characters and scenes feel so, just, you get sucked into them because they're not in a hurry. They're letting things happen. They're letting things have space to breathe, and I love that. But overall, as of right now, they're very close, and by the way, I'm happy about that. I'm so glad that they were able to, you know, that both of these movies, in my opinion, are basically just as good as each other. It's just more of Art, more of Terrifier, and how can that be a bad thing? But I was expecting Terrifier 2 to do something crazy and just take this franchise to another level, which they did in some ways with the supernatural aspect and having that girl around him, and then the ending, obviously. I just feel like none of those things really landed, and it just didn't have the effect maybe that they wanted it to. I just feel like they basically made the story and the lore around Art a lot more complicated, and I just think that was a little bit sloppy. But the movie is still really good. However, overall, I really think that I prefer the original Terrifier. It's just a lot scarier, it's a lot darker, it's just as sadistic, if not more, and it just has more of a retro vibe, in my opinion. Terrifier 2 is basically just as good, but I think I'm going to give the edge to the original Terrifier. I love that movie. But anyway, let me know what you guys think. Which one is your favorite? And do you think that Art the Clown is up there with all the other horror icons by now? I definitely think he is. He is one of my favorites. I love him. Anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe for other horror content like this, and I will see you in the next one.